On March 6, 1944, a B-7 flying fortress named Hell's Fury was deep over German airspace at 23,000 ft. In the tail gun position, Staff Sergeant Michael Mad Mike Donovan watched 12 Messers Bf 109s form up for attack. Standard procedure dictated retreating to a defensive position and conserving ammunition. Common sense screamed, "Stay alive," but Donovan had a different plan. In the next 4 minutes, 12 German fighters fell from the sky with 0 American casualties. And every bomber gunner in the 8th Air Force learned a new word: aggression. This is the story of how one tail gunner's suicidal tactic became a critical doctrine, transforming the most vulnerable position on a B-17 into the deadliest weapon in the sky. Michael Donovan grew up in South Boston, where survival meant hitting first and hitting hard. His older brother boxed Golden Gloves, and Mike learned early that waiting gets you hurt. Action keeps you breathing. By the time Pearl Harbor occurred, Donovan, having been in 32 street fights and only lost 4, enlisted in the Army Air Forces. They wanted him for ground crew, but he insisted on gunnery school. His instructor complained he was too aggressive, too reckless, and too willing to expose himself to return fire. Donovan's famous reply became legend at the school: "Dead gunners don't shoot back. Live ones do." He graduated third not for accuracy but for speed. His secret was simple: he didn't wait for fighters to enter his firing zone. He hunted them before they got there. In March 1944, Donovan transferred to the 390th Bombardment Group in Framlingham, England. His new B-7 Hell's Fury already had a reputation, having survived 3 missions in 2 near-catastrophic encounters with German fighters. The previous tail gunner had survived but requested a transfer, telling the crew chief, "That position's cursed, next man dies there." Donovan immediately volunteered. The pilot, Captain James Whitmore, interviewed him personally, citing the grim statistic that the tail gunner position had the highest casualty rate. 38% don't finish their tour. "Then I've got 62% odds. I'll take them because I don't wait for them to shoot me, I shoot first." Whitmore's final assessment: "You're insane, you'll fit right in." On his first mission on March 2, 1944, Donovan shot down 1 Bf 109 and damaged 2 others. But it was his method that drew attention. Standard tactics involved defensive fire, waiting for fighters to commit to attack runs, opening fire within effective range, and conserving ammunition to protect the aircraft. Donovan did the opposite. He fired bursts at fighters still forming up, forcing them to break formation early and wasting ammunition on targets at extreme range. His simple logic was that one burst at 800 yards cost 20 rounds, but one fighter breaking an attack pattern saved a 10,000 lb aircraft and 9 lives. The math worked. His second mission on March 4, 1944 saw him experiment further. When Bf 109s attacked, he didn't track the lead fighter. He targeted the wingman. The wingman, who was flying predictable patterns and not expecting immediate return fire, exploded. The suddenly alone lead fighter broke off immediately and the entire attack disintegrated. The crew chief noted that Donovan had used 1,600 of the 2,000 rounds of standard load, 80% of his ammo on one mission. "And we didn't get hit," Donovan responded. "I'll take that trade every day." That night, Donovan studied German fighter tactics. He noted that German fighters typically attacked in coordinated waves of 4 to 6 in an echelon formation from the stern quarter high. The lead fighter would draw defensive fire and the wingman would exploit the gunner's focus on the primary threat. The American response was reactive: track the lead threat, engage when certain of hits, and conserve ammunition. Donovan saw the flaw. American gunners were reacting, Germans were dictating. He realized that every defensive doctrine assumed the enemy controlled the timing. What if you reversed it? What if you attacked first? What if you forced the enemy to react to you? On March 6, 1944, before the mission to the aircraft factory at Augsburg, where 800 B-7s were expected to face 2,500 German fighters, Donovan raised his hand in the pre-mission briefing. He asked for permission to try aggressive fire to engage fighters before they committed to attack runs and force them to defend before they attacked. Whitmore cautioned that it would burn ammunition, but Donovan countered, "Or I'll prevent the real fight. We've been playing defense for 2 years. How's that working? 38% tail gunner casualty rate. Maybe it's time we stopped waiting to get shot." Whitmore relented, giving him one mission to prove it. Fighters came at 9:19 hours, 12 Bf 109s 2,000 wide out, forming for a coordinated attack. Ignoring the standard response, Donovan opened fire immediately at maximum range. The tracers missed by hundreds of feet, but the effect was immediate. The German formation scattered and the attack pattern disintegrated before it began. When the Germans regrouped and approached cautiously, the initiative had shifted. Donovan tracked a veteran wingman who refused to break. He held his fire until point-blank range, 1,000 yards, and unleashed a sustained 200-round barrage in 3 seconds. The concentration of fire was overwhelming. The fighter exploded and disintegrated. The remaining 11 fighters regrouped, adjusting tactics to attack from multiple vectors. Donovan had planned for this. When the fighters split into 2 groups, he focused everything on the 6 attacking from 6-0-0, completely ignoring the 7-0-0 threat. He picked the lead aircraft and fired. It exploded. He immediately shifted to the next lead and fired again. Another explosion. In 30 seconds, 3 Bf-109s fell and the remaining 9 fighters broke off, fleeing from a single gun position. Donovan was now down to his last 400-round belt. 10 minutes later, radar picked up a massive force. 36 new fighters combined with the 12 already shadowing them meant Hell's Fury was facing 48 enemy fighters. They were alone 3 miles from the nearest friendly bomber and no P-51 escorts were in range. With 380 rounds left, the math didn't work. Donovan radioed Whitmore, permission to try something. What? Attack. He argued that a coordinated assault would be unstoppable, but if he engaged while they were still organizing, he could force them to scatter before they were ready. Whitmore gave the order. Donovan opened fire at 2,000 wide, pouring 200 rounds into the formation center, not targeting specific aircraft but the space where coordination happened. The effect was catastrophic. 1 Bf-109 caught fire, 2 others collided trying to evade. And the entire formation of 48 fighters disintegrated into chaos. One tail gunner with a suicidal attack run had just broken up the largest fighter assault any of them had witnessed. 90 seconds later, the Germans swarmed in 12 fighters from 600. No strategy, just overwhelming violence. Donovan targeted the middle of the swarm, the psychological center where the pack's courage came from. He fired 30-round bursts into 3 consecutive aircraft. 1 exploded, 2 broke off. The remaining 9 continued their attack run at 400 wide, but Donovan kept firing with mechanical precision. Another Bf-109 fell, then another. 2 more exploded at point-blank range. 3 survivors broke off as the risk of collision exceeded the reward. Donovan tracked one last fighter, squeezed the trigger, and his guns were dry. He'd expended all 180 rounds in 45 seconds, destroying 6 fighters in that engagement alone. The German fighters regrouped one final time, 27 aircraft remaining from the original 48, having lost 21 to a single bomber. They attacked from 600 low, the one vector Donovan's empty guns couldn't cover. Donovan had no ammunition, but he had one weapon remaining: psychology. He traversed his empty guns to track the lead fighter with perfect targeting discipline. The German pilot saw the twin 50s tracking him, and pure instinct overriding knowledge, he broke formation. The rest of the formation followed, not because Donovan could shoot them, but because they believed he could. The psychological impact of his previous kills created a phantom threat. Empty guns became as effective as loaded ones through reputation alone. They disengaged completely. Hell's Fury landed at Framlingham 9 hours after takeoff. Donovan had 12 confirmed kills, 4 probables, and 3 damaged aircraft. The news spread, and within days, Major General Frederick Anderson, commanding officer of the 8th Bomber Command, arrived to interview him. He explained his philosophy: aggressive fire, psychological intimidation, and attacking during the enemy's formation phase. Anderson ordered him to develop a special training program to transform tailgunner tactics across the entire 8th Air Force. Donovan spent the next month developing what became known as the Donovan Doctrine. The core principles were revolutionary: seize initiative, engage fighters during their formation phase to force them to respond to your actions. Psychological warfare. The first burst doesn't need to destroy. It needs to intimidate, making the enemy cautious. Focus fire, concentrate all firepower on the most dangerous sector. Ammunition economy through aggression. Prevention costs less than reaction. 30 rounds scattering 12 fighters is more efficient than 300 rounds engaging scattered targets. Accept risk. Individual risk is accepted for collective survival. The doctrine faced immediate resistance, but the statistics didn't lie. In March 1944, the tail gunner casualty rate averaged 38%. By June 1944, after widespread adoption, the rate dropped to 23%, a 15% reduction. German fighter attack completion rates dropped from 52% to 27%. German fighter pilots began avoiding bombers known to employ aggressive gunners. The mere reputation created a tactical advantage. The program emphasized mental preparation, with Donovan's favorite saying becoming doctrine: fear happens when you react. Confidence happens when you act first. Graduates of the program, like Sergeant Thomas Bailey, who destroyed 16 fighters in his first 4 missions, accounted for 43% of all tail gunner kills in the European theater by war's end. The aggressive doctrine increased survival rates through deterrence as German pilots learned to recognize the telltale signs: early opening fire, sustained barges, and broke off attacks immediately. By summer 1944, Luftwaffe training manuals included sections on avoiding American aggressive gunners. Donovan never flew another combat mission, spending the rest of the war training others. Conservative estimates credit the Donovan Doctrine with saving 300 American bombers and 3,000 aircrew. After the war, the principle of aggressive defense was incorporated into the aerial combat doctrine of multiple nations. Yet Donovan returned to Boston, worked construction, and never talked about the war. Luftwaffe after-action reports captured after the war consistently mentioned American gunner aggression, attributing 28% of the decline in German fighter effectiveness, specifically to American aggressive gunner tactics. The final 8th Air Force analysis showed that bomber losses fell by 43% from 14 per thousand sorties to 8 after the doctrine's implementation. The difference was gunners who shot first. Michael Donovan died in 1998 at age 76. His funeral was small, but every veteran of aggressive gunner training knew his legacy. They raised glasses and remembered the man who taught them to shoot first. As one veteran toasted, Mike Donovan never thought he was special, just a guy doing his job. But his job saved 3,000 of us. That's Mike's legacy. Not 12 kills, 12,000 lives. The Donovan Doctrine remains standard doctrine in modern aerial combat training, with its principles applied to fighter engagement, transport aircraft gunners, and even modern missile defense systems. March 6, 1944 lasted 4 minutes. One tail gunner, 12 enemy fighters. The moment when defense became offense, and one South Boston street fighter proved that survival comes from making your enemy too scared to fight. Michael Donovan fired 2,000 rounds, destroyed 12 aircraft, saved 3,000 lives, and changed warfare forever. Not because he was special, but because he refused to wait for death to come find him. He went hunting first.